Everybody, welcome back. Today, well, as you can see, I'm in a different spot than my last couple of videos. I tried really hard to get all the books for 2023 done while I was at my parents' house over the break. Didn't happen, and here we still are. So I'm back at college. School started yesterday, and today we're talking about this book right here, All Quiet on the Western Front by Maria Remarque. Now, this book is crazy. Like, it's just wild. I read this because I had watched the movie on Netflix and I was so flabbergasted. I said, I have to read the book. And the book and the movie, they're different. They are for sure different. Let me tell you what it's about, and then we'll get into kind of like the differences and what I liked and maybe what I didn't like as much. Not that there's a whole lot, but just the differences. Okay, so this book, All Quiet on the Western Front. The Western Front was an area of land. This is in World War I, so it's bordering France. Germany is on its way marching west in France. They meet each other, and that's the Western Front. And this is told from the perspective of one of the youth. Well, he's not a youth, although kind of. One of the young men on the German side. And that's so interesting too, because you never really hear from the German perspective during like these wars. You know, there are so many books written about, especially World War II, but just like war books in general, and Germany isn't a place that it usually is. And also this book was written in 1929, so that's crazy. And yeah, it just follows him as he is on his way. It kind of follows a group of teenagers, literally teenagers, who are stationed on the Western Front. And it is definitely, if it's one thing, it's anti-war. Let me read you the front little piece here. I don't even know what you'd call that little introductory paragraph. It says, this book is to be neither an accusation nor a confession, and least of all an adventure, for death is not an adventure for those who stand face to face with it. It will try simply to tell of a generation of men who, even though they may have escaped shells, were destroyed by war. I just got the chills when I read that. It is so wild. Yeah, just totally crazy. Let me read you this excerpt. I would recommend this book if you, I mean, it's not like, oh, I'd recommend this book. It's just so good and happy and wonderful. But it packs a punch for sure. I'd almost recommend the movie more because when I saw that movie, I literally still think about it sometimes. It's wild. But both are really, really good. I think All Quiet on the Western Front, the movie, won a bunch of Oscars, as is deserved. And yeah. Let me read you this excerpt. It says, for us lads of 18, they were 18 years old when they were enlisted. And this isn't a true story, which is important to note, but it does tell many stories that happened during this time. For us lads of 18, they ought to have been mediators and guides to the world of maturity, the world of work, of duty, of culture, of progress, to the future. We often made fun of them and played jokes on them, but in our hearts we trusted them. The idea of authority, which they represented, was associated in our minds with a greater insight and more humane wisdom. But the first death we saw shattered this belief. We had to recognize that our generation was more to be trusted than theirs. They surpassed us only in phrases and cleverness. The first bombardment showed us our mistake, and under it, the world as they had taught it to us, broken pieces. While they continued to write and talk, we saw the wounded and dying. While they taught that duty to one's country is the greatest thing, we already knew that death throes are stronger. We loved our country as much as they. We had suddenly learned to see, and we saw that there was nothing of their world left We were all at once terribly alone, and alone we must see it through. I think one thing that the movie does is it shows you, this is obviously talking about the, that's literally on page 6 too, like it starts fast, talking about how the older people, like it's just war, and this war was, it's just a bunch of kids, you know, who are just being commanded by older, you know, people in higher rankings. Then none of them wanted to do this. Oh, it's so awful. Anyway, that is Franz Kemrick, 19 and a half years old. He doesn't want to die. Let him not die. That's a prayer that he says in his heart as he's looking through the infirmary, I believe, is where he's at. He says, it looks like the skeleton is working its way through many of them. The tears run down his cheeks. I would like to wipe them away, but my handkerchief is too dirty. It's really like it's a... And it doesn't look very long. I have a weird... I don't know if this is a weird copy. It's hardcover. It's about 150 pages long, so I'm sure if it was formatted like a regular book, it would be longer. But, yeah, it's really just... It's tragic. And the one thing that this book does that is not in the movie, well, there are a few things, but one thing is he gets to go home in the book here. He gets to have a leave and return home for a second. And he goes home and he visits his family, and he already knows, like, he's seen too much. He already doesn't fit into the regular world. And one of his neighbors comes up to him and asks how her son is, and he saw him die in like the most brutal way, but he doesn't have the heart to tell her that, so he just says that he died immediately and like peacefully, and he just doesn't have the heart to tell her that he was brutally destroyed. Isn't that so crazy? Really a good book, great movie. Yeah, really, and we don't hear a lot on World War I ever, but I'm glad that this is here, you know. So that was my review on All Quiet on the Western Front. I know it was kind of short, and I'm kind of whispering. Literally, I don't know what it is about my college room. I literally, like, it's like the silence is like almost oppressive. It's silencing me. Let me know if you've read this book, though. I'd love to know. Let me know what books I should read next. All Quiet on the Western Front. Wilds. Go read it. Let me know what you think. This was Carson Reads, called Carson Reads because I'm Carson. I read. Ciao.